Hey guys, it's Dovid Konikov here, and today we're looking at a clip from Mosab Hasan Yousef, the son of Hamas, and Douglas K. Murray talking about the problems that face the Western world. Check it out.
I remember speaking with you almost 10 years ago now, after a set of attacks in France, in Paris. There was the Charlie Hebdo attacks, the attack on a kosher supermarket, then the attacks when dozens of jihadists rampaged through Paris, massacred people at the Bataclan Theatre and the stadium and coffee shops. And I remember then asking you about, what does it take for the West to wake up to this reality? Because, you're aware of this reality because you grew up and you saw it firsthand, and you were a very unusual person in thinking your way out of it, which, is incredibly unusual. I would say that most Israelis today understand the reality that there's a group or groups of people who say, we want to kill you, and if they get the opportunity, they do. But the rest of the West seems to me, even all these years after we spoke about it, still is in a sleep. What would you say to Emmanuel Macron, Rishi Sunak, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris? What would you say to them to communicate to them that this is real?
One of the biggest contributors to terrorism and violence, actually hypocrites. Because when we are hypocrites, we're not calling things for what they are. We see the Islamists' threat. We see what they're capable of doing. And when I say CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, other intelligence services in the West, most democracies in the West, they know the ideological dimension that motivates terrorists and terrorist attacks. But we prefer not to talk about it because it's Islamophobic, or because it's controversial, or we may offend the Muslims. So now we're submitting to their intimidation when we don't talk about it, when we don't challenge it, that this is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Life depends on diversity. And the different is appreciated. Yes, we should have human discipline because we are not animals. But also we don't want someone acting as the sword of God, because then everybody would think that they have this authority, and the only outcome is bloodshed. We have the Muslims who live in the West, and I think there is no problem with that in principle. But don't enforce your religious identity, and when they do, we have to counter it. Like, for example, we cannot separate church and state and allow mosque and state to be united. We cannot just stay asleep while watching the Islamic hubs produce more extremists. And today, we have so many Islamic fanatics who actually preach through social media, through YouTube, and they are based in London, they're based in Paris, and they don't only advocate for a peaceful Islam, actually they are just preaching very dangerous, radical ideologies, the Muslim Brotherhood ideologies that is anti-West, that is anti-civilization, that is representing the 7th century mentality as an alternative to the modern world. And they are protected by the freedom of speech. But there has to be a limit to where you can preach such sick ideology. And I think most of the leaders are afraid, whether they are ignorant of the topic or they have short-term interest and they don't want to compromise this interest. They don't want to offend Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia or like Qatar, they have their own calculations. But in the meantime, we cannot hide from the challenge, because Islamists are in the West and they are waiting for an angry cause. And this is the dangerous thing about the Palestine. This is why one of the reasons that I came back, and I came very strong against the pro-Palestine, because it's not about Palestine. There is no such a thing as Palestine. It's anti-West, and it's looking for an angry cause. Yeah. And the more anger they are able to generate, they're creating the climate for those individuals who have been waiting to act. So I don't want to say, what are we waiting for? Like another major terrorist attack? Then we are going to understand that we have an enemy within. I hope we don't get to that point. But let me tell you something. From my personal experience, when they start first shouting from the river to the sea, calling for Jewish genocide, it was no time before chaos. And it became suicide bombing attacks, became stabbings, it became mass shootings, it became, everywhere became a target. And Palestine is chaos. Islam is chaos. And of course, this is very hard to say, but I hope that we don't get to the point to see the things going completely out of control, to realize that we have individuals among us that we really need to leash, that they cannot take advantage of the freedom. There is a limit. You cannot advocate on behalf of terrorists and terrorist ideology by the name of freedom of speech. It's not acceptable.
You can't use freedom in a society to shut down freedom.
Yeah, absolutely, but because it's very hard to draw the line, and many people take advantage of this. Take, for example, after 9/11, Muslims went into the hiding for almost a decade or more than this. They just hiding their identity. And after October 7, it was just next day they start demonstrating against Israel and against the West.
In New York, in London, in Paris, everywhere.
Within a week, they showed so much aggression. And again, this is the bloodlust that I told you about, which is very strange. You look 9/11 and you look October 7, and what's after? Totally different outcomes. So why all this? And this hatred against the Jews that is attracting actually many Westerners who might have something in common, that they are all anti-Semites. And this is what's bringing the Islamists and the communists and could be the socialists even to work together. They have something in common, and that is their hatred towards Israel. But what many Westerners are not understanding, that this is not only anti-Israel, it's anti-success and it's anti-civilization. It's pro-chaos. This type of individuals and this type of movements, they thrive in chaos. They don't like order. In order, they die. And this is why they want to see more of the chaos.
Mosab hasn't.
Wow. Powerful words there, chilling warning. And actually, as we speak, there was a man that drove his car into a sidewalk and struck a large group of people in Germany. And some people are saying, most people are, I guess, speculating that this is an Islamist, radical extremist terrorist, as well as or an immigrant. So those are the two suspected. Right away people are like, right away to blame them. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case, but it definitely drives home what he's trying to say, is that there are too many hostile forces entering the Western society in general, as well as slowly but surely in America. For more, subscribe to the channel. If you want to help us make more of these videos, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. Also, check out our memberships and subscribe and join there for some exclusive content. Thank you and have a good one.